This week's episode is sponsored by the War for the Tower podcast. If you're not interested in an actual play RPG podcast set in the universe of Stephen King's Dark Tower, though, why not try out some other shows with the same host? The network is called Sinister Parent Company, and under that umbrella, there's Good Idea, a comedy podcast about solving real-life problems, Shattered Worlds, another actual playcast based on a tabletop game that Jeff created, and Everything is Awesome, which is a podcast about art, music, and life. You can find out more by searching any of those titles on your podcatcher and follow the network on Twitter at twitter.com/sinparentco. You can also find them at warforthetower.com or search War for the Tower on your podcatcher. This is an Unspoiled Network podcast. This is Unspoiled, covering Doctor Who, Season 7, Episode 4, The Power of Three. In this episode, there are a bunch of weird little cubes that turn up in houses overnight, and it turns out that Anakin Skywalker is behind it, and he really is determined to kill the younglings, aka humans. I don't really know what to make of that, but the rest of the episode was pretty fun. Welcome to Unspoiled. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I am Jamie.
So, that wasn't just me, right? Like, he looked like Darth Vader under his mask.
I can see why you thought that. It didn't really occur to me, so when you said Anakin Skywalker, I was like, wait, what did I miss? Did I actually not pay attention this time? But no, I got there, eventually.
Yeah, he just really, to me, looked so much like that. I almost wondered if it wasn't a purposeful reference for some reason. And, you know, it may have been. But I found him very, like... What is the name of the creatures in the end that we find out are, like, behind this?
Give me 1 second. It starts with an S, but my brain said Sycorax, which is not right. The Shakri.
Shakri, okay. And this dude, it turns out, is, like, not actually there, and he's not the one behind it. It's, like, a whole people.
Well, we never really get any real reason why, or why he was, you know, what is it? What are they called? Oh, my God. I'm sorry, my brain. No.
Figurehead? Emissary? Diplomat?
You know, like what they did with Tupac...
Hologram?
On hologram.
Oh my God, I can't believe that you just said, you know what they did with Tupac. God damn, that is a terrible frame of reference that we now have for holograms, which were allegedly going to be one of the coolest things. And yet that's what we've got. We've got that, and we've got Wolf Blitzer on election night, or whatever it was that he did. And that's what we've got, kids.
Apologies. I just couldn't think of the word. But yeah, we don't really know why he's a hologram, and also like why he's just like, all right, I'm out, and then just lets them destabilize everything that they've set up.
It's weird, right?
So easily.
Yeah, they're just basically like, well, we'll just do the opposite of what y'all did and undo it. I'm rubber, you're glue. And I was like, I mean, if that works, I guess that's fine, but it does seem like an oversight that you can just... do that. They weren't super thorough here.
And they just allow him to.
Mm-hmm.
They've spent all of this time, almost a full year, gathering data and figuring out what the easiest way would be to get rid of humans.
Mm-hmm.
They do 1/3 of the population, and the doctor's like, we're just going to make a giant defibrillator and restart all their hearts.
Is it defibrillator? I thought it was defibrillator, but I'm realizing I don't really have any reason to think that. I just have heard it that way in my own head this whole time.
Well, I mean, I do watch a lot of Grey's Anatomy.
Okay.
But
so you're an expert?
I'm going to look up
You're practically a
doctor. How do you spell defibrillator?
We can just... Well, see, this is the thing. I thought that there was an R in there.
Defibrillator. D-E-F-I-B-R-I-L-L. So defibrillator.
Yeah, I thought it was that, but I was like, I really don't know where I got that because it's not a word I use much. So,
ever?
Yeah.
And that might be the first time I've ever said it out loud. Maybe that's why I said it wrong.
Yeah. The words are weird.
Because usually they just say, paddles, clear!
Yeah, it's just like, it's one of those things that I'm like sort of wondering if it doesn't come back again later because it feels like a setup of quite an intense adversary to have just go away. And if it does turn out that this was all they had going for him, and then they just pretty much just let him undo it, I think I'm going to be a little bit salty about it. But, you know, I won't be like super mad or anything, but I'm just going to be like, oh, well, okay. It feels like you said, this insane amount of effort. And really, can we talk about the fact that like they were exploring their options on how to destroy human beings, and one of the things was the chicken dance? That was on their list of like, ooh, you know, people have a very strong reaction to this. This might be the key to making sure that the end comes sooner rather than later. And I think that wedding DJs everywhere would probably agree with that.
Did you ever watch New Girl?
No, I did not.
Okay. We just started rewatching a couple of weeks ago, and in the first season, they go to a wedding, and Jess makes this big deal about how she likes to do the chicken dance, and Nick is like, no, chicken dance! But then, through, like, whatever, they end up doing the chicken dance, but in slow motion.
Oh.
On purpose, and it's really funny to watch them, like, with these, like, groove faces on, doing the chicken dance all slow. I'll have to see if I can find a clip.
Yeah, the chicken dance is one of those that, like, I totally understand people's hatred for it. And don't get me wrong, it's far too long for what it is. But I do have, like, a space in my heart for it. However, it's still not being played at our wedding. So.
Well, I might do a slow chicken dance just because.
I would love it if you did a slow chicken dance when the chicken dance was not playing. That would be excellent.
It was not playing in New Girl either.
Oh,
they just
nice.
were doing it.
I like it. See?
Yeah.
There we go. That's the way to my heart.
And since Jason will be my date to the wedding and he has watched this with me, it would be really funny if we just led the charge for the slow chicken dance at your wedding.
During some really powerful ballad.
No,
and you're just
doing
going
something
really
fast.
If you're doing it in slow motion during a ballad, you're still
That is
staying
funny, too.
within the spirit of the piece, but you're just interpreting it your own way.
Yeah. It would be funny, I'm telling you.
So this episode, it was like, it did the same thing as the last one, where there were parts of it that I was just like, oh, this is really interesting and really, really well done. And then it would go another way. And I was like, but wait. So the main thing that I'm thinking of when I say that is Rory's dad basically being like, so, doctor, what happens to the people who travel with you? And the doctor being like, well, funny you should ask. I leave some behind. Some of them die. That won't happen with these guys, though, I promise. And Rory and Amy seem to be inching closer and closer towards wanting to live a normal life.
Mm-hmm.
But then in the end, their dad is just like, you've got to just keep doing it because it's an opportunity that will never come again. So don't give that up. And they're like, okay. And just get right back on the TARDIS with him. And I was kind of disappointed by that. Because I felt like the episode was asking some really interesting questions about balancing your life with doing something like this. And, you know, the idea, like I had said to you, I think last episode is the one where she says people are going to start noticing that we're aging faster than them.
Yes.
And I was like, I don't understand how that would work. And I guess it's like they'll be gone for what really was 6 weeks or 7 weeks, even though it seems to everyone else like they just were gone for the day.
Right.
I think that's a real flaw in the way this all operates, that you don't get to come back to your own time and sort of undo that lived time. You know what I mean?
See, I feel the opposite. I actually really like that explanation because it makes so much sense. Like, time is passing for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes they're gone for 7 months and then they go home and it's only been a day. They've lived all of this life.
Oh, yeah, I'm not saying that I don't think the explanation works. I definitely think that makes sense. I just think that that's a major, major drawback that I really would have hoped that the TARDIS would have figured out a way around. Do you know
So
what I
you
mean?
get to live all of this time, but then when you go home, it just like snaps you back to
Exactly.
the condition you were in when you left?
Exactly.
Well, that feels like a cheat.
Yeah, that's what I want. I want to cheat. Thank you. You put it very succinctly. Appreciate it. Because it just, like, you know, we fucking age fast enough anyway to simultaneously be aging, but, like, also missing parts of your life because time didn't really pass for you there the way that it, like, do you know what I mean? I don't know. It's just I feel sad about that. And I mean, they are living more than many of us probably because of what they are involved in.
Yeah.
But it just seems rough. And it's fair, you know, I guess that's the trade-off. But I just don't like that for them. I would have liked it if they could just do their thing. And it's interesting because this isn't an issue that other companions have seemed to deal with because they stay with him the entire time.
Yeah, this is the first companion / couple companions that go back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're trying to have both.
Yeah.
And in the past, from what we have seen, and again, we haven't watched the old series, so I don't know if this was ever a thing that happened with companions in the past, but it seems like most of the time companions run off with the Doctor, and they stay with the Doctor until it's time to not be with him anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that might mean, being left behind, dying, or like what the Doctor did to poor Sarah Jane, just dropping her off somewhere and then piecing out.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is something that's ever been tackled before, and I like that they took the time to do it because these two, like, they have jobs, but like Rory's like a part-time nurse, or like an on-call nurse, instead of just having a job until they're like, hey, we want to offer you like a full-time position because you're awesome and we want you as part of our hospital permanently. And he's like, I took it. And he's surprised at himself.
Yeah.
But, like, you can't make those decisions and still, like, run off with the Doctor for 7 weeks. Well, I guess you can if the Doctor actually gets you back when he's supposed to. Mm-hmm. Which, luckily, he did during their anniversary party, even though they were gone for 7 weeks. But a lot of times, he doesn't get them back on the right day.
Yeah, that's the main thing to me, is that he can promise all he wants that he can manage this, but we've seen how... I mean, really, when you think about it, our show that we watch only shows when it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right? So
much.
That's my understanding of how it goes most of the time, which may not be accurate.
Right.
But that's what I've got. And I just can't really, like... Honestly, there was a moment in this where I knew that we knew what Rory did for a living, but I forgot. I didn't remember until they bring it up later. And it was the beginning of the episode when they're sitting talking to one another saying that they're going to have to choose. And I was like, oh yeah, what does he do for a living that he can just disappear and nobody really notices? And honestly, when I stopped to think about it, being a nurse is the worst possible option for a job for a character who is allegedly able to vanish for long periods and then just show up when he wants again. Mm-hmm. Because a nurse is like, the idea of a part-time nurse, I'm sure that's a thing, but it's not a thing that any of my friends, and I have had many who were nurses, they have all wound up being full-time, like immediately, once they finished their schooling, because there was a need. And even if they were part-time, they were expected to be available any moment. They were constantly on call. Mm-hmm. So once I really stopped to think about that in context of everything, I was like, oh man, like if we were looking at the actual situation, Rory would have a terrible reputation because he would never, he would never be available. And God knows if he even would show up when he was actually scheduled for. Mm-hmm. And I just... It's an unreliable system. It's very unreliable. And the doctor's unreliable. I mean, that's the whole point of him in a lot of ways. And I know that he means well, but like, oh well.
We see evidence of him meaning well in this episode where they're supposed to have like a little night to themselves on their anniversary and it turns into 7 weeks.
Yep.
I liked how Amy talks about how, we've been trying to put it together and we think for us, it's been 10 years. Mm-hmm. And as an audience member, it's hard to wrap our heads around something like that because of the nature of television, we think like their whole experience is what we're seeing.
Right.
But when you get a line like that, you're like, oh, they've been doing this for a really long time with all kinds of adventures that we never see. Mm-hmm. Or rarely even hear about. So for these two people, it's completely understandable that they're like, we're going to have to choose because they've been doing this for 10 years. But then they go home and it's still 1 year after they got married.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I think that I just really liked that this was being addressed. But then it felt like the show didn't actually really want to tackle that in a real way. Yeah. They just kind of wanted to, like, have a moment where they're like, doing this would actually be pretty weird and isn't that funny? And then go back to the thing. And I was kind of like, no, wait, you've sort of convinced me that isn't the right choice for them anymore. But now you're trying to take it back. And I can't just take it back.
Yeah.
But, I was almost hopeful that they would decide that they weren't going to do it anymore, and this would be Rory's dad's time to shine, and he would wind up like taking their spot,
Yeah.
And I think that would have been really like kind of neat to see, like a companion who's older, who has a connection to a previous companion, and isn't just like a completely separate person with no idea what they're getting into. Instead, it's somebody who could like. Allegedly, he could just like come home and be like, oh man, guys, and tell them all about it and not have to keep a secret the way that other companions have had to. Or, get their memory wiped or whatever.
Oh, Donna.
I just, tragic. So there was a lot that the episode was like working with for me that I found really interesting. But I just wanted more of it. And I sort of hope that this isn't the last that we get of them dealing with this, because it's been mentioned several times now. The doctor like drops them off last season, or was it the beginning of this season? No, it was last season. And tries to be like, it's too dangerous and I can't let you all die. Apparently he's like completely like let go of that concern now.
That was this season.
Was it this season?
Because last season, they thought he was dead at the end and then found out he wasn't. And then he shows back up after his Christmas adventure. And they're like, yeah, River told us. But Amy like pretends to be mad at him because you let us think you were dead.
That was the Christmas episode.
Yeah. So Christmas episode, like in the end of last season, they thought he was dead but found out he wasn't. and then
okay, so him dropping them off.
That was like, I think that was after Silent of the Daleks, was it not? At the end of that one?
I thought
it was either that one or the second episode. But here we are, it's only 4 episodes, so it's weird that I can't remember. But I'm pretty sure that was, or maybe, no, that was last season.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you're right. That was last season.
Okay.
That was like when he then has that adventure with Craig.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, okay, sorry. They're all running together.
That's what happens when it's the same companions. I feel like it's just really hard to keep track.
Amy's been a companion for a long time now for us. Mm-hmm. Like, this is her 3rd season. And before, like, we had Rose for 2 seasons, and everybody else was just 1.
Was this the longest that we've had, like, the same doctor and same companion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
he's just, like, apparently doesn't really worry about their safety the way that he did, I guess. It's not like anything has materially changed that would justify it. It's just him being like, well, what can you do?
I think he still does. He still worries about them, but he's also acting on a bit of selfishness because he doesn't want to be alone. He misses them. He likes being with them. Mm-hmm. So he's making these selfish choices instead of saying, like, no, you guys should live your life now. Mm-hmm. You've got lives to live, so live them. And, maybe I won't find a companion, maybe I will, but I don't want to take you away from what you're building. Mm-hmm. But he can't do that because he's being selfish.
Yeah, I feel like, and I really do get it, I mean, I understand wanting people with you and being extremely social. That is also how I am. So I'm not even mad at him about it. I feel like it's something that keeps being brought up, but nobody, like the scene, for example, when Rory's dad chimes in and is like, you guys, you only have so much time in your life to do this sort of thing. Take advantage of it while you can. Mm-hmm. They sort of just like look at each other and then shrug their shoulders and are like, yeah, okay. But it doesn't feel like they have a discussion. They don't talk about the actual, like, ramifications of this choice or how they're going to try and manage this now that they've made commitments, which they have, that I wouldn't think you could just take back. At least Amy's, like, the wedding that her friend had, I think, is over. But Rory is, he has a full-time job now. And there's no real sort of sense of agency on their part. It's like other people just being like, this is a good idea for you, and them going along with it. And I want a conversation that is more than just the doctor being like, you're going to stop, aren't you? And Amy being like, we're thinking about it. And then his dad sort of volunteering them and them just doing that.
Yeah.
I want to know what their plan is here. Do they have any intention of just ever settling down? Do they want to settle down eventually? Or is this like decision to go off with him, them deciding to actually leave things behind and sort of take back the commitments that they made? I just want to know what their end game is and what their goal is and what it is that they even want, because I just don't have a sense of that. But that said, the idea of cubes that just appear is really funny. And honestly, if I had been watching this episode years ago, I probably would have said that people wouldn't just take shit that they didn't know what it was into their home. But now I know that people are so much stupider than I thought.
Yep.
And they definitely, because like for me, you couldn't pay me to carry one of those things into my fucking house. I don't need to know what it is. All I need to know is that nobody else knows what it is. Mm-hmm. And that's all I need. And I am not touching it. I am not doing anything with it.
Agreed.
And yet, I really would have thought they'd have had to try harder to make these things appealing to people than they do. They literally are just like, I'm going to make these perfectly cubical black boxes. And somebody was like, and you're going to fill them with candy? No. Are they going to look like money? No. Are you going to make them smell really good or anything? No. It's just going to be a perfectly cubical black box. And if you had said that to me, I'd have been like, you could do better than that. What do you mean?
You can't even call it a box because there's no opening. They're just black cubes.
But that turns out to be enough. And people are just like, we see later on in the episode how they've like weirdly become integrated into everybody's lives as just this background thing because they just appeared and everybody sort of forgot that they are threatening, which that is another thing that rings very true. Mm-hmm. You can normalize anything, guys. You could tell people that you won't believe this, but in 6 months, alien cubes are going to land on your planet and you're going to be literally using them as a paperweight and not noticing them anymore. And people would be like, I don't think so. And guess what? We get used to shit so fast. It's really terrifying. Mm-hmm. And honestly, this feels like some shit that like Apple would be behind. Like as a marketing stunt. It just feels like them. I could see it. I'm surprised that an apple doesn't appear instead of a 7. I just feel like that's so... If they weren't the ones that created it, they would admire the shit out of it and probably, begin to make products that mimicked them. I bet they'd start a whole trend.
It's a perfect design. It's a perfect cube. Mm-hmm. Not a flaw in any of them.
Yep. Yeah, they would definitely try and mimic this somehow.
Mm-hmm. I mean, this is kind of like...
I would.
When, like, the Amazon Alexa came out, and everybody was, like, scrambling around getting the Alexa, and the Google Assistant or whatever it is, and all I could think was, why are you guys putting these things in your house? Mm-hmm. Because we know you can talk to it, which means it can listen. Mm-hmm. And then even... when it came out that like the Alexa is listening to you, and like even when you don't realize it is, and you have to go into its settings and turn it off so it doesn't listen when you're not talking to it, and it's gathering information on you. Mm-hmm. All that information came out, and people were still like, "Yeah, I'm totally going to get it." Oh, they made it as a dot now. It's just a little one. I'm totally going to get that. And like people have Alexas all over their house, and I'm like, are you not suspicious of anything?
Well, see, here's the thing, though, Jamie.
I know our cell phones listen to us.
That's it. I know. It's done. I think that's the attitude that a lot of people have, because I have the same hang-ups about the Alexa. But then when I stop and think about the fact that I talked to you privately on Skype about my mattress, and then you started getting a bunch of ads from Purple.
That may have been because I looked it up.
Maybe, yeah. That probably... But can't on the
yeah. Because I did look it up while we were talking, but I have had conversations with Jason where we're just sitting on the couch having a conversation about something, and then 2 hours later I'm scrolling through Instagram or Facebook, and an ad will come up for the thing we were talking about, and I'll be like, fucking robots are listening to us. Mm-hmm. And that's not because I looked something up. That's because we talked about something specific.
Yep.
And that kind of shit happens all the time. And so even though I still have the resistance to like, no, I'm not going to get an Amazon Alexa Dot because I don't want the robots listening to me. I have to remind myself that the robots are listening to me because I have a phone and I have a computer and they listen.
And that's a similar thing where if we told people in 1990 that you're going to have phones that listen to everything you say and market things specifically to you based on private conversations you're having in your home with your friends, and you are going to know about it and you're going to be fine with it, or at least fine enough to continue using it, most of us would have been like, no way. I am absolutely never going to be. That is the creepiest thing. And yet most of us know, and we're just like, whatever. I mean, that whole thing came out about TikTok and how much like data it's scraping from people. And like so many folks were just kind of like shrug. And I get it. I really do. Because there's honestly, it's just like a part of it is just this inevitability of as technology improves, we sort of, I think, accept that it's just going to get better and better at spying on us. And there's no real fight to be put up about it, I think.
Well, we've lost the fight.
Yeah, it's done.
Yeah. We're too far gone now. So now it's just, we've lost that battle. We can't make any inroads to changing it because it's how everything operates now. And
it all happened so quickly that laws about it couldn't keep up. It was just completely uncharted territory. So the idea that like, oh, we passed a law where you're not allowed to listen in anymore. Well, congratulations, but that shit's old news. And I bet that there is like a byline in that law that says, except for shit that's already in place.
Right.
You guys get a pass because you've already created that technology, and we don't want to have to make you undo it all. That would be asking way too much.
I was talking with my friend not too long ago, and she was like, we were texting, and she's like, oh my God, don't text things like that. They're going to come and get us. And I was like, look, I'm sure they have a file on me if they're going to. Like, I haven't been shy about how I feel about these kinds of things. So, like, we're all on the internet. Like, we don't have any secrets. I don't do anything illegal, and I don't like the government, and if the government knows that, I'm sure they do, if they want to. I kind of rest on the privilege of being just one person that's not making waves in a way that would get attention. Yeah. But, you know, like, I'm like, don't worry. You're not going to have, like, the SWAT team coming and banging down your door because I texted you a meme.
About how you're hoping President Trump shits himself to death?
Like, something. I'm sure it was something anti-Trump. But she's like, oh my God, will you stop? They're going to come and get us. And I'm like, they're not. We're nobody. We're not the people that they're targeting.
Yeah, it's...
We just work at a Starbucks.
Right, yeah. I'm sure Starbucks themselves are on a list.
Oh, I'm sure.
They're everybody. We all are on a list of some kind. Just, you know.
I'm sure that there's a file somewhere based on things that are overheard through our phones, and maybe it doesn't even have like our names attached, just our phone numbers. You know, like just collecting that data. We're so far into it now. It's
too late.
It's too late.
Yep.
Yeah. It's too late.
So, yeah, the idea that these people invited this shit into their house, and I love, like, later when he's talking to the woman who apparently is, like, related to somebody that we're supposed to know.
Yes, remember we had that discussion about the Brigadier, who he was a recurring character in the old series that was the doctor's friend. He ran unit, and there was a conversation in an earlier episode this season where he found out that he died.
Oh. Vaguely. Remember? Very, very vaguely.
And I looked him up so I could tell you who he was because I wasn't sure either, but obviously by the context, he was an important character. And it turns out they added that in because they wanted to honor the actor who had been on the show for so long. He was the only real recurring character through, like, pretty much the entire, from, I think, the third Doctor on.
Huh. Okay.
She's his daughter.
Oh, okay.
And she's taken over running unit, but she did it. She didn't want to do it on like nepotism, so she dropped the middle part of her name so that they wouldn't know she was his daughter. And she got there. She rose to the top on her own merits.
Okay, that's fun. I like that idea. She says at one point about how all of these like cubes have spawned their own Twitter accounts. And that is just the realest shit. I love that detail so much. There is nothing quite like shitpost Twitter accounts.
Yeah.
They're their own whole subculture. It's crazy.
And that's gotten much more commonplace now. So the fact that that was written into this back in 2012 is interesting because like, Twitter was big in 2012 for sure. And some of the things that she names off are not things that people even bother with anymore. Actually, I think it's just one. She names Flickr.
Yeah, when she said Flickr,
nobody talks about
lol.
Flickr anymore. But, you know, YouTube and Twitter, like now the cubes would have an Instagram account.
Definitely.
And it would be a verified one, you know? And I'm sure there's a blue check mark next to the cube's Twitter account.
I'm just thinking about like what the content of a Twitter account like that would be. And it would just be like pretending to be an alien overlord who is sinisterly making his plans and watching what's happening on Earth. And we would find it so funny.
It's probably run by the same guy who does Not a Wolf.
Exactly that kind of thing. Not a Wolf is such a good account. Those kinds of Twitter accounts are one of those things that I feel like are so underappreciated because the amount of creativity and sheer work that it takes to keep one of those going for any length of time. There's one that Owen follows, which is just supposed to be like a dude who really loves Lord of the Rings, but who is also not like super smart or aware of like pop culture stuff. And it is one of the funniest accounts. I wish that I could remember what it is because like he showed them to me the other day and they're the sort of thing that if I read them to you, it would not be as funny. You know how that is where it's like half of it is how things are misspelled or the phrasing of things. And you're just like, yeah, that doesn't work otherwise. But yeah, so anyway, I just really enjoyed that detail. I thought that was really funny and very like true to human nature.
Yeah, this episode was written by Chris Chibnall. It's the second one that he's written this season. And then he goes on to be the showrunner later. So it's stuff like this where he actually puts a lot of thought into his scripts. That
bodes well.
Yeah, exactly.
We have like talked in so many directions because we haven't started from the beginning.
And we haven't talked about the fact that Rory's in his underwear.
Listen, first of all, I want to talk about Rory sticking his bedhead out the window to yell at his dad who's at their door. Because Rory with bedhead in his PJs and like a robe is, I think, cutest Rory. I don't really know what it is that works for me so much. But he looks like very soft because of having been in bed. But the robe look is like masculine, you know, in this way. I love men in robes, bathrobes. Love them. I've bought Owen probably like 4 bathrobes since we've been together and he still has all of them. And really we do need to get rid of some because it's getting excessive. But there is something about the look of them. They like accentuate the shoulders and they have this sort of like V shape to the front of them that like gives the shoulders an even more of a broadness and makes the torso like look a little bit more, you know, and they have this dignity to them and they are sort of like this old fashioned type look. So that combined with later on when they are in the 1890s and he's wearing that outfit with that like cravat. Hi. Yes. Very good. Appreciate it.
It's a very good Rory episode.
Honestly, that's probably the only time that I think that Rory looked better than Amy. Because her hair is no good in that one.
You know what? I'm wondering if something was going on where she had cut her hair. This, I'm pretty sure, is long before she gets cast as Nebula. Actually, for sure, long before she gets... No, actually, when did Guardians come out?
I do not... You would be the one to know more than me, ma'am.
I would have to look it up, but I'm wondering if she'd already maybe cut her hair off for Guardians and had to wear a wig.
Well, it was the only time that I was like, oh, okay, you... That look does not work for you, but it does work for Rory, which is a rare thing, and good for him. I love their dad, his dad, Rory's dad, knocks on the door because of these cubes and wanting to know what the hell they think of it. That he knows about the doctor, of course, and so he's like interested in getting that perspective, I'm sure. And they have slept through this all, and so they did not notice this happening and are taken quite by surprise when they look down the street and see the street just littered with these cubes. And also, you know, I continually forgot and had to remind myself through the episode that it made it seem like they only appeared outside and people took them into their homes, but we saw one appear on their nightstand.
Yeah, it seems like it's a combination where it like showed up in people's houses, but it also, they were just littered all over the street too.
And the doctor does indeed show up and is, you know, figuring out or trying to what these things are. And Rory's dad is coming up with a bunch of theories, and it's great because he just lists off like 1,000 different things that they could be. And they all seem like the type of thing that you would have expected were you watching this show trying to theorize with your friends what these are. Like, he is coming at it from a very like sci-fi reader / watcher standpoint. Mm-hmm. And I really appreciated that because there's nothing that fucking irritates me more than watching characters stumble around trying to figure out a thing that you've already figured out yourself ages ago when they live in this actual world and they should know more than you and they are just not thinking that way. And I like that he's out here. I'm going to read all of the theories here because he says them. The doctor is saying not a single molecule's difference between them, no blemishes, imperfections, individualities. What if they're bombs? Billions of tiny bombs. Or transport capsules, maybe, with a mini robot inside. Or deadly hard drives. Or alien eggs. Or messages needing decoding. Or they're all parts of a bigger whole, a puzzle that has to be fitted together. And I just really enjoy it. It's just, you know, mm-hmm. Yeah, that is how your brain should work. He would make a very good companion. He really would.
Yeah.
Probably would be a little bit too cautious because of the fact that he's able to think of all these things. And it seems like a necessary ingredient for companions is incaution and or ignorance so that they do something stupid to move the plot along. But, you know, that I'm sure we could work around that. We can make things
I have to
work
give
anyway.
Brian some credit for going from a guy who doesn't like to leave his house or, you know, his big trip is going down the street to the grocery or whatever. Mm-hmm. To being someone who's open to traveling around, so he did some traveling, which is great, to being the guy who's like, look at all these weird cubes that showed up. Mm-hmm. Aren't they strange? What if it's all these things? And coming up with all these theories where, you know, for him, maybe a couple of months ago,
his horizons are expanding.
Like, yeah, he just would have been like, that's madness. Why would you say something so crazy?
Yeah, and as they are figuring this out, this is all happening on the TARDIS. The Doctor leaves Brian on the TARDIS to watch the cubes. You do get the impression that the Doctor is a little bit overwhelmed by Brian's theorizing, and so getting him out of the way. That's fine. They go back to the house, and this is when a bunch of troops arrive and catch Rory by surprise because he is in the middle of getting dressed for work. He had been changing into his scrubs, and he gets marched into the kitchen saying, there are soldiers all over my house and I'm in my pants. Mm-hmm. And she replies, my whole life I've dreamed of saying that.
I like when she asks the Doctor, like, what do you think we're doing when we're not traveling with you? And he's like, mostly kissing, I guess. And she's just like,
Oh, I love it. I don't know, kissing? I love that so much. Is this a kissing book? Yeah. And yeah, agreed. Rory in his undies. He got good legs. I like his look. Mm-hmm. What's up?
Yeah, I was not mad about it.
Yeah. He's so cute. How can anybody...
He is. I know. I'm real into him.
Team Rory forever. And again, you know how I said last time that like I'm waiting for an episode where I'm not on Rory's side? Even a small thing, like when the cubes begin to activate, Does Rory touch the fucking thing, Amy? No, he fucking doesn't. He tries to observe it. He does not reach out with his hand to the alien object that has begun to act up, Amy. Just... Yep. When are people going to learn to not touch shit? Christ's sake. I don't even do that on a hike on planet Earth. You just don't touch things because you don't know. Are they poisonous? Are they venomous? Are they oozing some sort of sap that's going to make you break out in a rash? You just don't do it. And yet, we're out here dealing with shit that's like not even of this earth. And people are just like, oh, I wonder what it is. Let me grab it and take it inside my... Anyway. So yeah, this is when we get Kate Stewart showing up and... telling them, hey, sorry about the drama of this entrance, but here we are in the last 24 hours. We have checked everything we can about what these damn things are, what they're made of, what their weaknesses are, and we've got absolutely no information of any kind. And then we have the Doctor waiting around for the cubes to do something. Mm-hmm. He's not good at it.
No. And we've seen this before.
Yes.
When they were in France with Vincent van Gogh, he could not handle just the afternoon of sitting outside of that church.
Yep. Yeah, I love when Rory's like, you're the one who said we needed patience. And he says, you need patience, not me. Patience is for wimps. Sir. But he does paint their fence, which, I mean, that's something. Being productive.
He bounces a soccer ball a million
times. I love that when he gets to 100, he yells Amy's name. Like, he's very much like a little kid being like, Mom, look! Mom! Yep. Mom! You're not looking! Mom! No, look! Mom! I just really enjoyed that detail a lot. And although I have to say, he paints their fence, which is, I mean, I hope that they appreciate that and or wanted that, because I personally thought it looked better natural than it did painted, but maybe that's what they were going for. I don't know.
He didn't do a great job painting it, I have to say. Yeah. I noticed some spots that he missed.
He's going too fast. He can't help himself. And then he finally comes back inside and wants to know how long it's been, and it's been about an hour. And I just really enjoyed that. And he's just like, oh my God, I can't fucking do this. I can't do it. So they go back to the ship, and Brian's still there. Absolutely placidly sitting and continuing to watch this cube after 3 days, not even noticing that the time has passed. Polar opposite of the Doctor.
Yep. Time flies when you're alone with your thoughts.
It's a great bit. I really liked that.
Makes you think that the Doctor cannot handle being alone with his thoughts.
Oh, completely. Okay. Where do you fall on this kind of spectrum?
Well, like I said earlier, normally I really enjoy having some time to myself. Mm-hmm. I love my boyfriend. I spend more time with him than any other human in the world. And I completely love that. But there are times where I'm like, I'm fine with him having to go away for work because I enjoy having time alone. So most of the time, I'm perfectly fine with it because I can distract myself. I get things done. I watch things that I don't watch with him. A lot of that, I think, though, is because I don't want to think. I don't like to be alone with my thoughts. I like to be alone, but when I have time to really sit and be still and think, that's when my brain goes to places I don't like. Mm-hmm. And I get extra anxious, and this is why I have problems falling asleep, too. Because when I'm trying to fall asleep is when my brain's like, let's think about all these things that were terrible that you did 25 years ago. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I like alone time, but I don't really like to sit and think. I feel like I'm always thinking, and so I have to distract myself a lot.
I get that.
So I'm with the Doctor on that. Like I don't like to sit idle when I have the time to like analyze what's going on with me. Mm-hmm. It's probably why I also haven't gone to therapy when I need to.
Oh, God. Yeah. I haven't picked back up on it ever since my therapist left that school that I was doing the discounted sessions with. And I think about it sometimes about picking it back up, but man, it was an hour and a half drive one way.
Yeah.
And I just don't really think I'm prepared to do that shit again, man.
Well, and then you go through your whole session and you have that hour and a half drive back where then you get to sit and think about all the things you just had to deal with.
Or you do what I did, which was put this show on my phone and watch it while I drive in a truly remarkable display of compulsive working / multitasking and refusal to sit with oneself.
Yeah, you also should not be watching things while you drive.
So they say. I don't see any evidence that that's a problem for me personally.
Oh my God.
But yeah, I'm weirdly, in terms of overall patience, it's weird. I am incredibly patient under the right circumstances. And I always feel it's only been 2-3 days. Give it another day, see? And I will start feeling irritated about the thing and be ugh, I'm so impatient. But if I'm participating in a thing with somebody else, they will be ready to lose their minds by the time that I am yeah, maybe we should check in on that. And so I have this sort of skewed idea. I think of myself as being a deeply impatient person. And when it comes to other human beings, that's true. But when it comes to simply waiting, I'm a very good waiting person. Waiter. Doesn't really work.
I'm pretty impatient, but there are certain things that I am very patient about. I don't like to wait in long lines. It's too much standing still. I guess that's what it is. If I'm not at home is where I do a lot of I'm just going to sit on the couch and watch TV and be very still and occupy my brain in this way. But if I'm out doing stuff, I move quick. I don't like to wait for things while I'm out. So my impatience is situational.
I think there's also for me the expectation. If I go into something knowing that there's going to be a wait, I have mentally really prepared myself for a fucking wait. But if I go into something that's supposed to take 5 minutes and it does not, that is when I start to get agitated because I often have a plan for how I expected my day to go and I'm not getting that. And that makes me irritated because now it's fucking domino affecting all of my other shit. So yeah, anyway, I just think it's an interesting question, How patient are you really? And I always think about that Community episode where the whole question is how long people will wait.
Yeah, I would be out of there. I'd be one of the first people out of there. I would not be Abed. I would be closer to Troy, crawling across the floor.
That crawl is one of those things that I still haven't. I've tried to find a GIF of that crawl that's built
You'll have
into
to make
the GIF
one
bars.
yourself.
Yeah, I'm because there are so many times where that is how I feel about something that I've just read or just seen. And yeah, that is an expressive moment.
There's that moment, and when Britta is being spanked with a switch by his grandma, and he says, "Why are you like this, Britta?" I can never find a gif of that moment, and that is one of my favorite Troy moments. And with her screaming because it actually hurts, and him being like, "Why?" He's also the best funny crier.
Oh, yeah. I think there's a compilation of all the times Troy cries on the show, and it's pretty funny. Anyway, so eventually we have this scene in the hospital that's super creepy. There's this little girl, and she's just sitting there holding one of the cubes, and nobody's noticing that the cube is lighting up. There's blue light inside of it, flickering around really oddly. And the little girl herself, it turns out, isn't human.
She's just like a sentry. She's just observing everything around her.
It's real weird. I liked it. But it's really weird.
I think it's interesting that they chose it to be a little girl because if you're trying to go for someone that nobody's going to notice, you probably don't want to pick a child by themselves. It would have, I understand, the creepy child factor because that's always, it's really easy to make children creepy somehow. But if you want to really dig into, no, a child sitting by herself in the emergency room would not be overlooked for days and weeks at a time.
I would normally agree with you, except in this, emergency circumstance that they're in where, it's just, I guess the emergency circumstance doesn't actually begin until later. She's been around since before that started. So, yeah,
That's
right.
What I mean.
You're right.
If they wanted somebody that's going to be just practically invisible, you want to go with just an average-looking person that no one's really going to pay attention to.
A Matt Damon from Ocean's 11 type.
Just watched that the other day.
Be funny, but don't make him laugh. Be charming, but not memorable. And no matter what you do, never, ever, under any circumstances. Oh, yeah, what's that, Frank? That's a good moment.
As if people wouldn't notice Matt Damon, but whatever.
I think it was Reisman who had a status the other day about how come Jason Bourne never has to change his appearance, but the women that he's with always have to change theirs. And honestly, Jason Bourne really is so white bread looking that he could be mistaken for a dozen other people at any given location. So I think that's probably really why.
Yeah, I mean, Matt Damon, I think, is very handsome, but he also does have that every guy look where if somebody tried to make a police sketch of him, he could look like any number of people. Whereas, what's the name of the girl who plays Marie in the first one? She's so beautiful. Franca Potente.
Is that her name?
You can't... Franca Potente?
I always think of her as Run Lola Run.
Yes, but her face is gorgeous, and you're not going to forget that. So you got to do something to change it up so you're not noticing her as much. And I like how they think they're making her look worse. She looks great.
They have her I'm going to cut my hair in the mirror, and then she walks out with this $200 Manhattan haircut, and I'm like, yeah, okay, guys. So anyway, this little girl is sitting there, and she's got this in her hands, and then we have this dude who's sitting there just waiting for medication. This old man, and he's in a room with the curtains drawn around him, and this dude comes up to him and he's looking at him real weird, and the guy yanks down his mask, and I'm not sure why the guy could tell something was up, because to me it's impossible to tell with these masks that there's anything weird going on underneath, but this guy figured it out somehow. Yanks it down, and there's just this really bizarre sort of nozzle, for lack of a better word. It's big
I thought it
diamond
was almost
shaped.
I thought it was just it was the cube, but just at an angle.
It's not a cube.
It's not?
I'll take
okay.
a screenshot of this and send it to you. It looks like a filter. It's really weird. I still don't really understand their relevance to this and what they were attempting to do with this man.
Yeah, we never get an explanation of why they took some people up to their ship.
Yeah. Is it supposed to be that these people were going to be some of the... I was going to say... No, this guy's too old. I was going to say, were they going to wind up being some of the forerunners to that? Because allegedly, we're trying to stop humans from contaminating the entire universe with their colonization, right?
Yes.
So I was thinking that maybe these people were going to be instrumental in doing that. But this guy's too old. I don't see him managing that at this point in his life. I just sent you a screenshot of the face. And it's just this really weird 5-sided nozzle with lines down the front that make it look almost like the front of a filter. of some kind.
Oh, yeah. I can see that on here because I was watching it on my TV. All I was really seeing was the shape, and it just... You see how it looks like it's one of those cubes, but to the side? Like it's not flat on top. It's the cube, but on a diamond angle. So that's what I thought it was. I couldn't see those lines.
Okay.
From, like, watching it on my TV from a distance. I couldn't see those lines at all. So I thought it was almost like... You remember the episode with the Are You My Mummy?
Mm-hmm.
Where the gas mask just, like, comes out of their face?
Right.
It reminded me of that.
Mm-hmm.
So in my head, I was like, it's just those cubes, but, like, these human shapes built around the cube. The cube is still the thing, but you're right, it's not a cube.
Yeah, I don't really get it, like, what these beings are, because, like, the dude that we see later does not have a face like this. He's got a very human-looking face.
Mm-hmm.
And the little girl is just a robot. Are these people robots who are planted also, or are they humans that got deformed somehow because we don't see them beforehand, so there's no way to know whether they started out as regular human beings or what?
Yeah, this is just one of those things where we just never get any explanation whatsoever.
Yeah.
Of what their job is other than collecting some humans, but why are you collecting humans?
Yeah, so this is like one of the things that I'm hopeful that this isn't the last that we see of this crew of beings, because I just feel like there's so many unanswered questions here that I don't really get. And if this isn't the last of them, I would... Now, see, this is the thing. This is not how Doctor Who works, is the problem. Often, anyway. But I would like an establishment of an ongoing mystery. And Doctor Who doesn't tend to do that too much. Now, it's not unheard of, but they like to be able to air the episodes in whatever sort of, like, order they feel like.
Sure, except for Amy's whole first season.
Right, but they aired things out of order with that as well. There were whole episodes that it didn't matter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like that was an ongoing mystery that you didn't even really know was a mystery at the time. And the only thing was that, like, oh, there's this face she keeps seeing. But it's a very small little, like, breadcrumb. I would like it, if we do see these people again, to have gotten a little tidbit here letting us know that this isn't over. But they, like I said, they don't really do that a lot on this show. So if things come back, it's either without warning, or there's a very heavy-handed, like, what's the word I want? They telegraph it really heavily before it happens. So, yeah, I don't know. I have a lot of questions about this and how it works and why. And, like, I'm not even really that mad about the idea of exterminating human beings who go out to just colonize planets, because, like, if somebody were to tell me that they were going back in time to stop, like, Spain and Italy from sending out ships with Columbus and various other conquistadors on it, and they were going to stop them by, you know, killing a bunch of people, I really don't think that I would be that mad about it, to be honest. Human beings have a bad track record when it comes to colonization. And while I respect and understand the Doctor's defense of human beings in general as being hopeful and they make mistakes but they learn, I would argue, no, they don't at all.
No, they don't.
They do not learn.
We are living through how little people learn right now.
So, really, the only reason for me to not be on this guy's side is because he looks like Anakin Skywalker, and so he probably is a bad guy. But otherwise, I get it, and I kind of think he has the right idea. If you know this is coming, and you can stop it, do it. Because I can only imagine, once we are able to leave this planet's surface and go wreak havoc on other planets, how bad it's going to be. The only thing that could possibly save other planets is them being much more equipped than us. And I hope they are. I hope that they can just defend their shit to the last. That is all I have to say about that. What?
I agree. It's just a sad state that we live in.
You know, it's just, we're just not to be trusted on the whole.
Nope.
We have not earned any amount of the kind of respect that the Doctor gives us. He's judging us on a lot of the time on the very best few. And, you know, there's a hopefulness to that, and there's like a sweetness to it because these are people that meant something to him specifically, but it's not totally honest about what human beings as a whole are like. You can't point to outstanding figures who really like stood apart because of their compassion and selflessness and try and be like, and all humans are like this. No, they aren't. That's why these people are so notably good. Is because most humans are not like this. And as we saw in Midnight, Doctor, do you remember? Do you remember that one? That's much more accurate. And the fact that they made no eye contact with you afterward is also quite accurate. And that's probably, if we ran into human beings who had successfully colonized planets in the future, they'd probably also not make eye contact. Because they know what they did. Or they would, because they have no shame. Who am I to say? But anyway, so...
I just want to give an update on... Okay, so Amy, or Karen Gillan, was on Doctor Who until 2013. Guardians of the Galaxy came out in 2014, which means she filmed it in 2013. So I'm going to venture a guess that she had already shaved her head.
Okay.
For Nebula.
Well, it's definitely, like, since you've said that, there's a couple of scenes which I have paid more attention to her hair now that you've said it. And it does look to me like her hair is less, like, incredibly bouncy and amazing than usual. So I really have to say, too, how great does your hair have to be that a wig doesn't even stand up at all? However, weirdly, wigs in Hollywood can be notoriously terrible.
They can, and they can be so good.
It's really
and then they can
weird.
be so bad. Yeah.
I watched Outlander a couple of episodes some weeks ago, and I can believe some of the wigs on that show. That is a period show. A lot of money should be going into those wigs. It didn't. Or if it did, they didn't get their money's worth. Somebody ripped them off.
I don't know if you ever watched The Good Wife.
No. I've heard it's good, but I have not
I would
watched.
highly recommend it. It is absolutely excellent. But Juliana Margulies has very, very curly hair, as we know from watching her on ER. And she would straighten it, but I think on that show she just wore a straight wig so that she didn't have to maybe cut her hair. And it went back and forth. There were some seasons where it was like, wow, is she pissing off the hair people? Her wig looks bad. And she's the star of the show and also like multiple-time Emmy-winning star of that show, for that show. But there were seriously times where it was like, yikes.
Right?
She pissed someone off.
Yeah, I saw a Twitter the other day. It wasn't a whole feed. It was just one tweet, actually. But it was a woman who had like shared a portrait, like a selfie. And somebody said, "Oh my God, I love your hair." And she said, "Thanks, it's a wig." And somebody shared it and was like, "Oh my God, Hollywood, please hire black people to do your wigs." Because you could not tell. It 100% looked like her hair. It was amazing.
Was she black?
Yeah, she was. And it was just incredibly well done. Just, you know, one of those like lace fronts that has the the scalp in the front, there's no seam. You can't see any edge that looks like, oh, that's where it starts. There's nothing to indicate anything. It was just amazing. And I really was kind of like, I know that a lot of black women wear wigs every single day, and nobody's looking at them like, what the fuck is up with that wig? Although, sometimes I will notice a wig. But yeah, it is sort of a weird thing that Hollywood just seems to not really be great with that. And that is some people's entire job. What is the money going to? What exactly happens that y'all are so bad at this? We had at Carnegie Mellon, there was a whole course on how to build wigs from scratch. And I just don't understand why you would, if that's the kind of thing you're going to come out with anyway, just fucking buy them. Because I don't know. There's a weird blind spot in shows that otherwise have got a lot of money behind them. I mean,
yeah.
Outlander is a show that, the costuming and stuff is often gorgeous. It's a sort of a prestige show. That
it was at first, anyway.
Oh, I don't know what happened to it, so I can't comment on that.
I haven't finished watching it. I don't have any problems with it, but I think it was really, really popular to start out and then sort of died off.
Okay.
I think it lost steam with most people. Nobody talks about it anymore.
Yeah, true. But yeah, so anyway, this leads to all of the weird behavior of all of the cubes, which is very different from cube to cube. We've got the one that Amy finds, which is basically does a what's the word? It does
an
a
EKG.
Heartbeat.
Yeah.
Is that the one we want to go with?
Yeah.
The one that...
Echocardiogram is what that means.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. I watch a lot of Grace.
Why is it a K?
And I watched I don't know, but it's called an echocardiogram.
Echo has a C in it and cardio has a C in it. What's the K?
I don't have an answer
Tell
for
me,
you.
Jamie.
I just know this from watching ER and Grey's Anatomy for so many years.
I am really upset at
I am
the
not
fact
a
that
doctor.
that doesn't make any sense. Guys.
Now, I'm probably wrong, but I'm pretty sure.
I need somebody to explain to me why an EKG... as far as I can think, picturing those words in my head, an echocardiogram does not even have a K in it anywhere. So what is that, guys?
I'm going to look it up. Instead of looking at pictures of Karen Gillan, I'm going to look it up.
And then there's the one that Rory has, which opens, but on the opposite side from wherever he happens to be standing. Which, considering that these are trying to...
Okay, I'm sorry. It's an electrocardiogram. It can also be referred to as an ECG or an EKG.
Why?
It doesn't answer that question. It just explains to me what the whole word is for EKG.
This
is
that
from the
makes
Mayo
me
Clinic,
even
so they probably know
more
what they're talking
angry. You don't get to say, well, ECG, which is fucking correct, or EKG if you feel like it, because we just don't like to worry about how things are spelled, even though we're using letters to shorten it. If you care about how a thing is spelled, then you care. Do it properly. Why would it shouldn't be either or. This isn't tomato. This is a medical fucking procedure.
I'm going to look at the American Heart Association and see if it goes further into why.
Oh.
No, it doesn't. It just says an electrocardiogram, abbreviated as EKG or ECG.
Oh my God, I'm so mad. Oh.
But we are right in defining that.
I mean, just I don't know, echocardiogram has a hard C, which sounds like a K. So I guess we'll just do a K to keep it from being confusing. That's more confusing.
Okay, I put into Google, why is the EKG instead, and it filled of ECG. People often wonder why. The reason is that ECG sounds very similar to EEG, which is the abbreviation for electroencephalogram, a test that measures electrical activity in the brain. So there you go.
No. If that is indeed the reason, and I say if because I don't trust this anymore, you just come up with a whole different thing to call it. You don't just substitute another letter that's nowhere in the words at all. That's stupid.
Wait, EKG is the German spelling, hold on, for electrocardiography. So I think that's why they chose EKG when they have to yell it out, so you're not mishearing an EEG or an ECG. Because in German, electro has a K and cardio actually has a K.
Okay. I guess. I'm that.
Look, you wanted answers. I found you answers. Don't be mad about what the answers tell you.
Are you? That's my whole job. That's what I'm here for, is to just be angry about what things tell me. I just can't. Look, okay, fine. It's in German. Why German? Why is that the language that we decided we were going to go with? For
how far do you want me to dig into this?
No. You know what? Don't. Because nothing you say is going to make it better. Electrocardiography is with a K. All right, fine. Ugh. It just, I shouldn't even get this mad because there are so many things that don't make sense about the way that we say shit, the names that we give things. So this is just, it's fine. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. It does not at all make me crazy.
Clearly, not at all.
Even a little. Ugh. Okay. So the one that Rory has just opens on the opposite side of whichever spot he is standing in. Which, again, taking into account the fact that these boxes are trying to find out human weaknesses, is hilarious. They're basically like, what if we just made them run from one side of the table to the other over and over again, and they never got to see inside this box? What would that do? Would that drive them to madness? And the answer for me, at least, is yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. If it only opens on the side you're not standing on, like even if you turned it, that side would close and another side would open, that would be so frustrating.
Oh my God. I would lose it. You guys. I'm not even trying to be cute. Like, that sounds so annoying. Ugh. And, it probably, like, I would love to know what happens if Rory tries to pick it up. Because, as I said earlier, Team Rory and the fact that he does not attempt to touch it. But if he did, would it just scoot away from him? Like, what would it do?
I don't know. Can we, we skipped over when they go to 1890 as part of their anniversary gift.
Oh, right.
But then also end up underneath Henry VIII's bed.
Right. We got to see that thing that was referenced at another time.
Well, kind of. They went back to get Rory's phone charger, which he left in Henry VIII's room. And while they were there, Amy accidentally said yes when Henry VIII was getting married. And that's why they ran to hide.
Amy. Did they say something about it being in another language?
I don't remember.
It's, either way, it's very, like, King Henry wishes, is all I'm going to say.
Yeah. And also they show him walking in, like, just his legs. So this wasn't, like, the supposed handsome version of Henry when he was young. Mm-hmm. This is an old Henry VIII who had gotten very fat. Mm-hmm. And, like, he basically was Robert Baratheon. Yeah. Like, he just ate all the time. He had an injury on his leg, and so he couldn't, like, be as active as he had been. So he just got very, very fat.
And the injury stank.
Yes. They should have just chopped that leg off.
Honestly, they should have. It might have been part of what killed him anyway. it would have...
I'm sure it was. It had to have been.
But yeah, this dude was a mess.
Yeah. I love Tudor history.
So, yeah, we see that, and also, like, it turns out that the amazing spot that he took them, the, like, hotel, the Savoy, was it?
It's the opening of the Savoy Hotel.
And it turns out that there was, like, some ship under it that had, like, aliens that were trying to do something.
Yes, Zygons. Zygons had replaced half the staff. Zygons are an alien from previous early Doctor Who, so sending out the cat signal. Please let us know what that is, Cat.
I really do enjoy how abrupt that cut is, that there's no, like, you know, it's just, another, and they're both so excited. Like, he drops them off and leaves, and they both, like, just jump up and down and kiss each other, and they're just like, yay!
I like when Rory gives the Doctor a kiss on the cheek, and the Doctor's just like, oh. Which is how we would all react if Rory gave us a kiss on the cheek.
I don't know about that.
I mean, I wouldn't just let him walk away, but at first I would be like, oh my.
You'd be like Phoebe when Joey says, how you doing?
Yes. Basically. I'm pretty.
All right, so boxes begin to act up, and eventually, after they all start doing separate things, they stop all at the same time. And they're trying to figure out why the hell they stopped. As this is happening, Brian is trying to find some bandages for Rory, and he runs into the shady nurse dudes who are very sketchy and sinister. And kind of can tell some shit isn't right.
So Brian and Rory are at the hospital, and the Doctor and Amy go to the unit's base underneath the Tower of London.
Right. Underneath the Tower of London. Okay. And yeah, his dad, like, gets scooped up by these guys, but again, not clear on why. They are, there's sort of an impression of, like, you've seen too much, and now we must destroy you. But, like, they launched this attack pretty quickly afterwards, and I don't feel his father could have done anything to stop them, or had any effect of any kind whatsoever. So I don't really know what they were afraid of. But, nevertheless, they take him. Rory notices that he is missing, goes after him. There's, like, a weird sort of force field fake wall at the back of this elevator. And he goes through it. Eventually, Amy and the Doctor also go through it. And they wind up on this weird ship with the creature dude, who is, as it turns out, not actually there. He is a hologram.
All the while, people are dropping dead, basically, from heart attacks. And the Doctor is having a heart attack, but he's got 2 hearts.
Right. Yeah, evidently they didn't take an adequate scan of him.
Yeah, so before they go through the portal, Amy uses the defibrillator to start his heart up again. Because he's yelling out about, how do you guys do this with just one heart? Ah!
I really did enjoy that. He says something like pitiful. And pitiful is one of those words that I really like. It just gets across something that I wish I could remember to use it more.
Yeah.
I say pathetic a lot, but pathetic isn't always really quite adequate.
Pitiful just feels even more like...
contemptuous?
Yes. Yeah. Like, pathetic's like, oh, you're so pathetic. But I think it's overused. Pitiful isn't used as much, so it feels more insulting.
Yeah, I see that. And when she uses the defibrillator, the Doctor's wearing a watch. Now, I know that this is not, it's fine, but I want to make sure that I have my facts right here. If you use something like that on a person who's wearing metal, that fucks them up a little bit, right?
I don't know.
Jamie, what are you watching Grey's Anatomy for? If you're not going
They've
to
never
learn
actually
how to use a
because
defibrillator properly.
When people come into the emergency room in these situations, or if they're already in the hospital, they've already had to remove all of that stuff. So it's actually not something that's ever been discussed on a show I watch. But I would imagine, yes, it's an electrical current. Is that going to fuck up a watch?
I would think that it's the metal conducting the electricity that would, like, burn you. You know what I mean?
Maybe. I don't know. I know that we have listeners who work in hospitals and stuff, so I would welcome, like, some information about, like, if somebody comes into the emergency room and you have to shock them, are you taking the time to take off their watch and take out their jewelry before you do that? Or are you in the heat of the moment, like, you gotta shock them?
And then you just...
or is it very directed? Like, is that charge just so directed to the place where the paddles are that it doesn't travel through the body like when you get struck by lightning?
That's an interesting question. All right. Well, you know what? There's only one thing to do. This is going to be Jamie and Natasha's research hour. Is using a defibrillator while wearing jewelry dangerous? Can you use a defibrillator in the rain? That is not what I was asking, but good question. Yes, it is safe to use an AED on someone with piercings or jewelry. Don't try to remove them, as this can waste precious time. Simply avoid placing the defibrillator pads directly over the piercings. Okay, cool. Yeah, it didn't occur to me, but yeah, if you've got nipple piercings,
are pierced.
Yikes, that would be rough. Yeah, that's neat.
Why does the doctor wear a watch?
Maybe it's to remember what time it is on Earth.
That doesn't seem to be a factor for him very often.
Yeah, he doesn't
really
really
shows
seem to
up when
care.
he feels like it.
It'd be really funny if she was like going to roll in and he's like, oh, it's supper time. I think I'll give him a few minutes to finish that up. This emergency can wait. So, all right. I kind of already talked about the big bad and the reason why he wants to get rid of people, which for me all just like makes total sense. The doctor knows these creatures from like old
they were legends in in Gallifreyan legends. The doctor says they were called the pest controllers of the universe.
Look, again, I see it. I'm just saying. I'm not really that mad about it. There's a bit of me that wishes they'd been around a little bit more frequently, to be honest. And headed off some things for us in our own history.
Where were these guys during the Holocaust?
I'm saying there's a lot that could be accomplished.
Where are they now?
Where are they now? Honestly, did you see there was some tweet that they were talking about like an asteroid that's coming like very close to Earth, and somebody said, everybody lean when I tell you to, and then the follow-up tweet was, and to be clear, we're trying to get hit. And I was like, yeah, amen. I want off this ride real bad.
If only that worked. If only we could like set the Earth off its axis by leaning in one direction at the same time.
That's like something that would work on Red Dwarf, honestly. Everybody leans.
Or Doctor Who.
Or Thomas. Yeah, you're right. That's funny. So the doctor is like, all right, so we're going to go and undo it by using all of these boxes as defibrillators and shocking everybody back awake. Yep. And it works. And that's it. That's literally it.
Everybody just goes back to their lives.
It doesn't make any sense, guys. I'm just going to say it. It's silly. It's silly, and it doesn't make sense. It's fine. I am not going to harp on it. But an episode that started off crafted in a way that was very compelling to me, I just keep having to remember that they don't have a lot of time, and they don't usually stretch things out over more than one episode. It's not as common. So I will get very into the concept of a thing, but those concepts are not given a lot of time to breathe.
Well, sometimes they do. Like, there have been 2-part episodes, but I feel like sometimes those 2-parters could have been 1 part. And something like this could have been 2 and would have made sense because they would have been able to build out the response, the fight back by the Doctor and his crew.
And the thing...
But instead it, like, sped along.
That I find really frustrating is that they do the 2 parts, like, as you said, it feels like they don't have to be a lot of the time. And when they are, it seems like they often are doing something that's, like, really trying to be sort of maybe heart-wrenching with characters. They're doing something that is oftentimes a bit of... What's the word I want? Something that's very melodramatic. Rather than using that time to explore really interesting ideas, which is what I tend to be more interested in. Do you know what I mean? Does that seem right?
Yeah.
So, and that's a shame because I think it's really like some of the concepts that they come up with are really interesting. And I want more of that. But then they don't give it to me. And it just, I want to know, like, did the writer have an idea that didn't get fully formed? Or did the writer not quite think through the whole thing either and is fine with the fact that it doesn't really get, like, examined further because they were sort of low-key, not really, like, figuring it out completely? I don't know. I just sort of wonder about that kind of thing because... It really is easy to come up with a neat idea, but not actually, like, be able to follow it through. That is something that, Lord knows, I have done, and I'm sure many other writers would be nodding in agreement with, like, oh yeah, I thought that was really cool. And then once I actually tried to, like, make it do anything, I realized I didn't know what I was doing with it.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Back when I wanted to be a writer, had lots of ways to start things and could never figure out how to finish them.
Yeah, and so that might be part of what it is that a lot of these writers are just like, well, I had a really cool idea, and I kind of just wanted to use that as a jumping off point and not really take it any further than that. But I just want to know that, you know, I'm just curious about it.
And I mean, this could come back. They leave it pretty open-ended.
Yeah, so I'm hopeful that is true, that they do come back, because I just want to know what the hell the deal is with these guys now that they failed. Are they going to try again? Would they try the exact same method again? I would imagine no. But then what other weapons are in their arsenal? What do they got up their sleeves? Can they... I'm just trying to think, like, I was about to say human beings are going to be so paranoid after that. But the truth is, no, they won't. Because, like, again, we just get used to shit so quick. And just forget. We don't learn. So.
And what happens here is that the thing that the Doctor does by creating this, like, worldwide defibrillator blows up the ship.
Right.
But that's just a ship. That's just an outpost.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah.
It could come back into play.
And he seems very, like, sanguine at the end of the episode, as if he really doesn't expect there to be more trouble, which I find interesting.
True. Yeah.
Just, you know, he has dealt with things being repeat problems many times. That's pretty much what he does, honestly.
Yeah.
So I find it sort of interesting that he doesn't seem to be worried about this happening again. Or these people coming back to get... Payback isn't even the word, because they're not attempting to do anything for the sake of it. There's a real reasoning behind what they're doing.
Yeah, they're just trying to set humanity back so that they can't do what humans do, which is colonize everywhere.
Yeah.
Did I say humans? I meant white humans.
It's true. Yeah, I want to know what the doctor's thinking there. Is he just not saying because he knows that that's a scary thing to tell your friends? Like, oh yeah, like we killed that one ship, but there are clearly more out there, so I wouldn't get too comfortable. Yeah, maybe that isn't something that you want to tell your friends. Maybe I can understand that. I don't know. Or maybe he's, yeah, I don't know. Doesn't he say something about how I need to find a wormhole at one point? Is that just to get the ship?
Yeah, when they're in the unit base, he's trying to figure out like that it has to be coming from somewhere. There has to be something monitoring.
Okay.
And I think he's thinking that there must be a wormhole or something because there's nothing coming up on the radar. So there's not like a ship that they can see just parked just above the atmosphere or whatever.
Right.
Or it's not like when the Sycorax came in and like their ship just hovered above London.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Because yeah, at first I thought when he said that what he meant was all these people died. I need to like time travel to undo it. I had like a completely misunderstanding of what his intention was there. Yeah, so he undoes that. Everybody comes back to life, basically. And then we have the end of the episode where, first of all, What's-Her-Face says he's just as remarkable as her father always said. Mm-hmm. And he salutes and gets in the car and leaves. Then he's at the dinner table with Rory and Amy and Brian. And he says, I'd better get going. Things to do. Worlds to save. Swings to swing on. I really like that he mentions at one point they're watching the cubes and he says something about just like eating cereal all the time. And in this scene, they are eating what I think is Chinese takeout. And just how ordinary that is. And there's something very like comforting about that. You know, combined with the cereal thing. The cereal thing is like, I don't keep cereal in the house because I can't be trusted with it because it does not fill me up in any way. So I will just eat a whole box and not even like notice that I did it.
I love cereal.
Exactly.
I always have cereal in the house because I'll eat it for breakfast, but I'll also eat it for a snack. Sometimes I eat it for dinner. Sometimes if it's Fruity Pebbles, it can be dessert.
This is what I mean. That's exactly my attitude. I could eat it any meal, anytime, any day, like day or night, and I would eat too much. I just can't have it. It's not a good scene. But anyway, yeah. So he gets up to leave, and this is when Brian chimes in that they should definitely go, and they do. And that's just the end of the episode is like him waving goodbye to them. And
yeah, he says, because the doctor says, like, you should come with us. There's space for you on the TARDIS. And he's like, no, someone has to stay behind and water the plants.
Yeah.
So he says goodbye to them. And then we get Amy's narration saying that this was the year of the slow invasion. And we realize something the Shakri never knew or never understood, what cubed actually means, the power of 3.
Which is corny as hell. But okay, that's fine. And yeah, and they get on, and then that's the end of the episode, and we immediately go to next time. And I was like, no! And then I shut it off.
Stop that shit right now.
Yeah. It just does that, though. Oh, it's so annoying. There's no
I know.
warning.
I wish they didn't. I like previews, especially like when I'm watching something I haven't seen yet. I am a fan of the preview of the next episode because it gets me excited and I start thinking like, oh my God, what is going to happen? What does this mean? Jason hates the previews for next episodes.
I tend to agree with him. Like, I would like to be fully surprised rather than
He would leave the room when we watch Game of Thrones.
Yeah, like, you know, I understand the thinking behind it, and probably it's successful most of the time. But for me, especially when you're bringing back like a character we haven't seen in a minute, and you tell me that, I just hate that, man. Just let me be surprised that they showed up again. Let me be delighted by it. But they can't just like let it be. They just always have to tease it, man. I feel the same way about like previously on.
Yes.
You know?
Game of Thrones was really bad about that, too.
Game of Thrones bad about that. Fucking Lost could be really bad about that. Like spoiling shit that was about to happen by being like, oh, remember this person you haven't seen in a whole season? Well, for no reason at all, we're definitely mentioning this right now. But it just feels like it gives so much away sometimes.
Did you notice that the Doctor Who logo's texture, again, was different?
No, I forgot that you had mentioned that. What is it this time?
It's cubes. It's like...
I should have known.
Yeah. Little cute.
I should have known.
And the working title for this episode was called Cubed.
Was it?
Yeah, the working title.
I don't hate that.
Obviously, they changed it to The Power of Three.
I like Cubed better, honestly.
This piece of trivia says, though it's not made clear in the episode, the scene in Henry VIII's bedroom was intended to show the TARDIS trio returning to get Rory's mobile phone charger after he had left it behind before, and we learned that in the town called Mercy.
Right.
And while they're hiding from Henry VIII under the bed, the Doctor is actually holding the charger in his hand.
Oh, I didn't even see that. That's funny.
I didn't either.
Okay, that's funny. And the Doctor sneezes, and then it cuts, and we don't get to see King Henry's reaction to this, which just I deeply regret. I want to know so bad what the hell happened when he heard that sneeze. I want to know.
Yeah, like we've had references to Elizabeth, and we've actually seen her like storm into the Globe Theater. But at least in this new Doctor Who, we've never had any stories where they've actually spent time in King Henry's court.
True.
And that, I think, would be interesting, especially because there's so many wives and there's so much intrigue that was always going on. Like, I feel like that's just a great trove of stories could be told.
Agreed. Well, I want to know. Maybe we'll get them later. She hinted heavily. Hopefully. Yeah, that's about all I've got to say on this one. Is there anything else that you wanted to add before we wrap?
No, just if you guys are Vampire Diaries watchers, if you've watched the show before, you've been interested in watching it again or for the first time, Krista and I are covering that here on the Unspoiled Network. We are going to be finishing up Season 3 this week.
Season 3. And how many seasons are there altogether of that show?
There's 8.
8, damn.
Yeah. We used to do 2 episodes a week because there's so many seasons, and they're all 22 episodes. But it was too much work for both of us to take on. Having to watch 2 episodes a week and then like talk about it. She does these recaps that are really fun, and it just ended up being too much work for us. So we now, so that we don't take a break again, we're just doing one at a time, and we'll just be doing this for the next 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, depending on the project, sometimes you just have to accept that shit's going to be your life for the next immediate future.
Yeah, because we're also going to cover the originals when we're done with Vampire Diaries, and that's 5 seasons.
Yeah. Yeah, this is, it was so funny because I mentioned to Rashawn about how, like, we're starting A Song of Ice and Fire again, and how that's going to take up the next several years. And she, like, reacted when I said that, like, that was unthinkable. And I was like, you do know that we did cover Harry Potter for, like, 3 years and change, right? Like, that was... That was ages of our time. And she was like, I know, I just don't really think of it in that way because it felt like it went by so quickly, which it does feel like that. If something is good, it will feel like that. It's, it's a shame when that's not how it feels. And you're just like, oh my God, this is interminable. But luckily, I can just sort of pull the plug on shit if I want because I'm the boss.
Yeah. True.
But yeah, so, all right, guys. Vampire Diaries, check it out. Check it out!
Yeah, it's really fun.
And like I already mentioned it, but Song of Ice and Fire is up and started again. So if you are interested in listening to me and Rashawn discuss Westeros and try and remember plot points that we haven't had to think about or talk about for a long time, please come and listen. It's for everybody. It's available on the main feed. And yeah, I think that's about it.
This weekend we're having a birthday party for Krista.
Yes. By the time this goes up,
which I guess by the time people hear this, they won't. Yeah.
But happy birthday, Krista, because today is her birthday.
Yes, it is.
And I will have hopefully sent her a cake, and that'll be fun.
She's gonna be so mad.
I texted her today. I told her, "Do you know that I looked everywhere for Diet Orange Crush?" And she was like, "You did, but it's discontinued." And I was like, "God damn it. You put it as your favorite drink on my spreadsheet, knowing that it was discontinued." And she was just like, "Where did I write that?" She didn't even remember what I was talking about.
Oh my God.
So, yeah, I think I might send her a red velvet cake as punishment.
She'll still enjoy it. She doesn't know. I sent her birthday gifts, and they shipped them in 2 packages. So she got one today, which was fortunate, and one's coming tomorrow. And I also donated to the charity that she was asking for.
Aww.
And she sent me a text and was like, "Why are you doing this?" And I was like, "'Cause it's what I do." And she's like, "You're the worst."
She's over here like lending me thousands of dollars to go to a neurologist.
Yeah.
And then being like, "I can't believe you bought me a $40 gift." Like, Krista.
I can't believe you got me a coloring book and colored pencils. How dare you? Like, you just shush. Enjoy your birthday.
And look, I pretty much do this thing where every year I pick somebody's birthday to actually celebrate. Because otherwise I just forget everybody's birthday. I'm real bad about it. And it's not even like I forget. It's just by the time I realize, I'm like, oh, it's too late to do shit now. So, Happy birthday. Sorry. Moving on. And that's sort of how I operate. And then there's one person that I like manage to sort of remember it's coming. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to do something. And Krista, you got to be that person this year. Enjoy it, because it won't happen for probably another decade minimum. And that's just how I work. So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you all again so much for listening. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Find us on patreon.com/unspoiled if you've been enjoying the show. And don't find us on Facebook because they suck and they banned me, so it's fine. And I'm not banned personally anymore, but my actual show page, they won't let me post from anymore. So that's annoying. But you can find me on...
Is it just you, or can I try?
You're not an admin, but you can post from
on
there.
On the regular page, I am.
No, Candace is the only admin.
Am I not?
I think that you can post from there, but I don't think that you're admin. Candace has tried to re-add me as admin, because what happened is when they banned me on my personal one, it pulled me from being admin on my page. So I've tried to get her to re-add me as admin, and she keeps trying, and it keeps not working. So I haven't been able to post from my own page this whole time. And I don't really know if I'm ever going to get to again. It's kind of where I'm at with that.
My friend Diallo got banned from Twitter because he said something about punching someone in the throat, and he was to a friend of his. He tweeted at them, "I'm going to punch you in the throat," and Twitter banned him. And it's impossible for him to get a new Twitter account. Every time he tries, they like boot him out.
It's good to know that we're focusing on the right people here with this stuff.
Yeah.
Good. So yeah, don't bother with the Facebook page is what I'm saying, guys. Go to patreon.com/unspoiled, or you can go to twitter.com/unspoiledshow. If you go to Patreon and become a patron, you'll get a link to join the Mighty Network, and that is where I spend most of my time. I'm on my personal Facebook occasionally to just rant and fight with people, and then I just go back to Mighty Network to do fun things. So,
but if you do want to be involved on Facebook, because a lot of us still are, you can go to the Patrons Only page or the Off Topic page or our Unspoiled Whovians page that I made.
Right. I forgot about the Unspoiled Whovians page. But yeah, you guys can you can do that. There's a lot happening, is what I'm saying. The Unspoiled community is growing, and it's always been a very supportive place, and I feel like it is just more so since all of this shit has started going down, and it's nice, and I like it, and all the people are good. So thank you to everybody who makes the community what it is. And with that, we will see you next week, guys. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.